I get in the zone, and then I say, okay, cool, I'm the best. I'm going to do this. I'm the best. And then usually it goes pretty well. Do I have my misses? Absolutely. But the story I tell myself is usually more of an empowering one now that I've realized that oftentimes it's not.
Have you ever sat down and figured it out, right? Instead of just kind of going on autopilot. And I was on autopilot a lot before that. I didn't understand. I knew my goals very clearly. I did not know my core values as clearly.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, NLU Weekly Live podcast for week number 116. 5 of the most important questions you should be asking yourself. Alan and I are blessed because we get to grace these microphones every single week, and for many of our episodes, we had the responsibility of coming up with powerful questions to ask our guests. And oftentimes, when you're coming up with those questions, you can turn those back on yourself and you can ask yourself those questions. And when you ask yourself difficult questions, I'm going to stop saying that phrase, and you answer them, you can have a lot of change in your life because you have new awareness. And with that new awareness, you can take new action. So we thought to ourselves, okay, we're doing a little bit of a different format here with our weekly live podcast. What if we came up with 5 questions that we could have the listeners ask that would help them, that maybe are questions we have asked ourselves that have helped us? My goodness.
We're strong opening, brother.
Yeah,
strong work.
You want to add anything to that at all? Or maybe...
I think the only thing would be this podcast was born from a podcast, as you know, called the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Yep.
Which if you look up hyperconscious on Google, it comes up with the definition of acutely aware. And basically the motto of that show was change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way that you live. And it was born from asking and answering the really tough questions. And when we surpassed our 1,000th episode, we did an episode about asking and answering the tough questions. And there were many, many tears that flew. But I think this is one of the most important things in the world. And like Kevin said, when you've interviewed hundreds of people, when you've interviewed Kevin dozens of times, you ask a lot of people a lot of questions, and you ask yourself those tough questions. And that's what we're going to do today. And I think that all new awareness comes from new contemplation, and contemplation is nothing more than asking and answering questions. And that's really what we're going to do today.
I think back, Alan, to when you and I had the studio. That was an interesting season for us, and there was definitely a lot of growth. There was a lot of overwhelm, but there was a lot of questions because you and I were in the studio just like we are today, except we're virtual, on Mondays from 7 a.m. I usually used to get there pretty early till 7, 8 p.m. And oftentimes before we started recording episodes, we were talking about business, we were talking about clients, we were talking about our relationships, our lives, finances, whatever it was. I remember at one point, you were trying to help me become more confident. And it all started, I don't remember the question, but I remember you asked me a question. It was probably something along the lines of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in yourself? It probably was something like that, because that's a question you would ask. And I probably gave an answer of like 5. And I remember you proceeded to ask me why. And I said, well, I don't remember exactly what my answer was. But then you said, why? And I said, well, blah, 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 my past, insert thing here, experience here. And you said, okay, why? And we went down this 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and we got to the point of the question. We got to a really, really powerful answer. So if you think about it, if you were to walk up to somebody, and this is oftentimes how our communications go with people, hey, how's your day going? Yeah, it's pretty good. Why? You'd get an answer. That person would take a step back and say, why is my day going pretty good? Well, you know, I had a good weekend and I got to spend some time with my friends and my family, but I'm not super excited about work on Monday. I'm just not excited to be here today. Why? And then you go down this rabbit hole of having the opportunity to get these new awarenesses. And I believe if you ask yourself why enough, if you ask yourself every day, if you ask yourself before every big decision, every lack of decision, every action you take, every lack of action, it's going to raise your awareness a ton. And I think if you commit to asking why enough times, you'll actually get to the root. I really do believe that, Alan. You taught me that. I think it was in, I don't know, was that in Dean Graziosi's book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I forget what the name of it. Do you know the name of the book?
I think it's The Millionaire.
Millionaire Secrets or something like that?
Yeah, something
I honestly
like that.
forget. Yeah,
I
I
didn't read
recommended it recently to a client actually.
I didn't read it. I didn't read
it. Great interview.
It was a great interview.
But he talks about the 7 whys and just asking why 7 times, but actually sitting in the vulnerability of the answer. Why do I care what that person thinks? Okay, well, because of this, because of this, because of this. And eventually you get to the root. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
It's just such a powerful thing that I often do on whether it's coaching calls or podcast breakthrough sessions. My goal is always to get people to have a new level of awareness. And it's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe you can make money as a podcaster? 2. Why? Well, all of my friends, they said it's dumb and nobody makes money podcasting. Okay, why do you believe them? Well, they've always kind of had this hold on my life and I don't know, they tend to crap on my dreams. Okay, why are they still in your life? Well, I'm afraid if I lose those friends, I won't have any other friends. Why is that? Don't you believe that you're a valuable human being? And then you really get deep pretty quickly. So if you can think about this every day, say the alarm clock goes off and you hit snooze. Ask yourself why. Why am I hitting snooze? Is it because I really didn't sleep well last night or because I'm not committed to getting up right now? Okay, cool. And that's the beginning of that conversation. You can also go super deep with this, but you can also ask yourself with surface level things and decisions you're making throughout your day too. So this is one of my favorite questions. People ask me on podcasts all the time, what are my favorite questions? Why is definitely number 1 because it does remind me of the hyperconscious days, but I believe that this is one that I practice most often and I have gotten the best results from.
So Kevin, Bianca, Emilia, and I took a trip down to Florida. We were at an event, and picture us all sitting around a round table in the back room of a conference, and none of our internets are working for whatever reason. And we're not really enjoying the conference that much, so we want to get some stuff done, and all our teams are on WhatsApp, so we're trying to use WhatsApp, and it's not working, and we're trying to post on Instagram, and that's not working, and we're on Facebook, and that's not working, and we're like, what is going on? Did they shut off our internet? Like, why isn't our internet working? This doesn't make any sense. It was just working not long ago. And this messed with me a lot, messed with Emilia a lot, messed with us a lot. We get back to the Airbnb, which may or may not have been in a fairly shady area. And we're in the Airbnb, and it's still not working. So it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Why isn't the internet working? What is the deal? We kept asking why, and for lack of better phrasing, Emilia and I were losing our minds. Did they shut off our internet? Did they change our phones? What's going on? It turns out that Facebook was down that day, and Facebook owns WhatsApp, and Facebook owns Instagram. So the servers for Facebook were down, and we didn't know that. And so we just all happened to want to use those 3 specific apps. It wasn't the internet that was out in the hotel. It wasn't the internet in the Airbnb. It was Facebook. And we finally connected those dots because we asked the question, why? Why? And we eventually found the root cause. We eventually found the root cause that Facebook is down. Don't worry. It's not the event. It's not the Airbnb. It's not our phones. It's not our devices. We didn't, upset Apple and have them shut down our phones or something. It's just Facebook's down. Now, that's a really good example, I think, of root cause analysis. One of my favorite shows on television is something called House MD, and the whole premise is it's based on Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes' goal is to figure out, through observation and analytical thinking, what went wrong and the root cause of a death or a murder or a crime scene. In House MD, it's the same, but for diagnosing an illness. So a patient comes in and no one knows what's wrong with them. No one knows why they're ill, why things are going wrong, why their kidneys are failing, why their liver's failing. And House MD is understands the human body and medical so well that he's a diagnostician. He diagnoses the root cause and is able to literally save lives that no one else can save because no one else knows why. No one else knows why they're sick. I've been obsessed with why my entire life. Kevin and I have been obsessed with why on this podcast from the very beginning. Because when you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. When you know why you're shy, now you have the power to change it if you so choose. And it's a really, really important question. That's question 1.
Even before we went on that trip to Florida, I remember, and this is something I've been working on for however many years, but overcoming my massive fear of flying. One of the ways I did that was I Googled why do planes have turbulence? That was like why what is turbulence? Why does it happen? Why am I super nervous when turbulence happens, but nobody else is? Why do planes crash? Like I literally did a bunch of, now again, that one, don't do that one if you're afraid of flying, because there's obviously some stories of that happening. But for me, it really helped because I had the root cause. It raised my awareness to the fact that it happens. It's normal. Planes are built for that. It would take way more turbulence than you will ever experience for a plane to crash because of turbulence. So asking why really raised my awareness and gave me more confidence ultimately in that situation. Okay.
That flight home was a little
yeah,
wonky,
that one was not ideal.
That one was rough.
That one was not ideal. I'm sure even if you can't sleep through the flight,
I'm not scared of planes, man. I was
Yeah.
like, this one's different. What's going on
Bianca,
here?
Bianca was like literally breaking my arm. She was squeezing it so hard. I was like, no, we're fine. I think we're fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. This second one, Alan, was your idea. So let's have you do this one first because I think you'll have more context around the stories for this one.
The second question is, what do I really value? And I think the reason why this question is so important is because when you ask it, you'll identify, of course, your core values. What do I really value in this world? What do I really value? Who do I really value? The persons, places, things, and ideas. If you don't understand what you value most, you're not going to be able to design your life around that. So, for example, if you really love basketball, you need to know that so that you can make sure that you pick a home near a basketball court, or you can choose a gym that has a basketball court in it. Emilia and I have been playing a lot of basketball lately. So there's a couple different courts we can go to. We can go to Hecla, we can go to Whiten. I love basketball. I have a basketball in my car. What do I really value, right? Fitness plus basketball plus intimate relationship plus we brought Tucker plus she loves nature and sunsets, so we went during sunset. See, you can't design a magnificent life if you don't understand what you value. And so what do I really value? The best frame for this question, in my opinion, is where do you invest your time and where do you invest your effort? Where you invest your time, effort, and your money too. That's the third one. So the only human resources you have, I believe, are time, effort, and money. I think everything can fall into those categories. And where you invest your time, where you invest your effort, and where you invest your money, I believe is what you actually value versus the story you tell yourself, and that's for later. But if you don't really know what you value, and I've done a lot of coaching, and I've been quite frankly very surprised at how many people don't know their core values, and I didn't either. I remember the very first time I asked myself this question. It was late at night. I had just gotten home. I was with my intimate partner at the time, and we were having a really hard time. And I was sitting in my room, and I was like, I don't understand why this isn't working. I do not understand why this isn't working. There's something I'm missing from this equation. Why isn't this working? To go back to number one, why? And I remember I had this breakthrough. I'm like, honestly, I don't think we have anything in common. I don't think we value the same things. So I remember I wrote down my core values. I still actually have it. It's actually in my pocket. I didn't plan on this, but my core values are in my pocket right here. And I remember I wrote them out. It was actually this flashcard right here. This is a very, very old flashcard. The date is on it, but I can't actually see it because it's in the upper right-hand corner, and it's like
It's
frayed.
this is something from the Titanic. They pulled it off the bottom of the ocean.
It's been many, many years. I think it was in 1912. But I have 6 core values that are written down. And one is undying self-belief, 2, natural health and fitness, 3, personal development and professional development, 4, desired growth to achieve massive dreams congruent with one's purpose and greatest level of long-term contribution, 5, a grateful and generous heart, 6, radical humility in action, and then in the upper right-hand corner I put a star with legacy, which is long-term impact. And I said all 6 must come from a genuine desire to serve. And I created this, I guess now it's been at least 4 years ago. And I remember I rated my partner at the time from 0 to 10 on each of these. And I realized after that, I was like, oh, that's why it's not working. Like, what I value most in this world, she doesn't really value that much. And how can I expect her to value me when I'm trying to embody these things more and more and more and more and more every day? And I don't think she values those things very much, quite frankly. And if she did, she'd embody them too, which she didn't. So what do I really value? What do I really value? Have you ever sat down and figured it out? right? Instead of just kind of going on autopilot. And I was on autopilot a lot before that. I didn't understand. I knew my goals very clearly. I did not know my core values as clearly.
Alan mentioned he kind of painted a picture of a beautiful sunset. He, Emilia, and Tucker playing basketball, outside, nature, burning calories, having a good time. I would argue that the things that you value are the things that you remember the most. And the opposite, the things that you value that you didn't live up to, you also remember the most. I'm glad you went first, Alan, because this wasn't going to be my story, but I feel like of all the stories I could possibly tell, this is probably the best one because it very, very much stands out to me because it's not me being in alignment with what I value. So I've told this on the podcast before, but again, I do think this is appropriate. So Alan, myself, and one of our buddies got invited to this, I guess it was like a mansion networking event. And what you did was you drive to...
We would never do that anymore.
I would never do that. There's no amount of money you could pay
Yeah.
me to sit through that. Which is, you'll see why part of the story goes the way it goes. But
Yeah.
so what you would do is you would drive to this store, and then it was kind of like an Uber there. So somebody would come pick you up, and they drive you from the parking, from the plaza, the shopping plaza, to the place, because there was only so much parking. So we drive... We park our car, we get in this vehicle, this person drives us there, and it's like, oh, awesome, cool. All right, we're in this really nice house, we're networking. I hate networking. I don't like starting conversations with people I've never met. Never mind figuring out what to talk about. So there's free wine. And I said, I'm going to have several glasses of free wine because I'm very uncomfortable. This is awkward. I'm anxious. I don't know what I'm doing. So I have a couple glasses of wine. We have some good conversations. We meet some cool people. Awesome. We're getting ready to leave, and the same person who dropped us off picks us up. And we were all joking. And I don't know how the conversation got where it got to, but the person basically said, like, yeah, I've had like 17 car accidents or something. And I proceeded to make fun of this person for their lack of driving skills, and definitely more than I am proud of. And it definitely wasn't me trying to have a laugh together. It was definitely me more making a joke at this person's expense. And the reason I remember that is because that's the opposite of what I value. One of the things I value is making people feel good, is lifting people up, is being supportive, is being a kind, caring human being. And that wasn't what I did in that moment. And I always talk openly about it, even though it sucks because I don't want it to happen again. But I've asked myself, number one, why did I do that? I was super uncomfortable. I was probably feeling a little arrogant because where we were, the people we were with, I probably felt fancy because I was drinking wine in a mansion somewhere. That's part of it for sure. But I look back, and why is it the thing that I remember so much? Because it was me against one of my core values. And having the confidence or having the courage to ask myself that question over and over and over again, even before I said this, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I value being transparent and authentic and real. That's the story that I have to tell for this actually to matter to me, to really mean something. So that is why I told that story. And I would say, think about it. What are the things that really stand out for you? If you could think and paint a picture of something amazing that you experienced, I bet you it has a lot of your core values. If you can think of something that you think back to and say, I regret that, I wish that didn't happen, I wish I didn't do that, odds are it's probably against your core values, is what I would say.
Yeah, that was a really powerful distinction. I agree.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
Your core values fulfill you most, and they also create the biggest regrets. When they fulfill you when you're in alignment with them, and you probably have a lot of regret when you're outside of alignment with them. So,
Alan and I, as you know, Alan and I used to podcast together, and it started out where Alan would, this is actually the very beginning, Alan would come over when I lived in Worcester. I lived in Worcester, Massachusetts with my buddy Matt. Alan would come over. Matt would be at work, and we'd just rearrange the house a little bit, and we'd podcast wherever. Sometimes it was at the dining room table. Other times it was in the living room. Other times we just pulled out the couch, whatever. It didn't matter. Eventually, we upgraded to his sister's old bedroom, and that is where we would podcast. And I remember this happened pretty often. So Alan would have leftover McDonald's in the in the refrigerator, and after we would podcast, one of two things would happen. Alan would say, hey man, I'm getting ready to go to the gym. I got to cram in a meal real quick. You want some nugs? Or you want a cheeseburger? Or do you want something to eat? You want to go get something? Like I can make you something. And I remember I always said no. I was like, no, man, I got a half hour ride home. I got to get home. But the question I was asking myself And I do this very often. I tend to say no when people ask me, like, hey, do you want to stay for dinner? Do you want to, whatever. Am I doing this for myself or am I doing this for someone else? I knew if I obliged what Alan wanted me to do, and Alan was very kind. He wasn't pressuring me, but I knew that if I said, yeah, I'll stay, I knew it wasn't for me. I didn't want the cheeseburger. I didn't want the chicken nuggets. I wanted to go home and relax. I knew if I said yes to that, that would have been me doing something for Alan over myself. And I got nothing against McDonald's. Trust me, I like McDonald's as much as the next guy. But I know that our listeners oftentimes, they deal with not upholding their boundaries. And this is a great question for you. If somebody says, hey, do you want to come do this? Hey, will you help me move? Hey, can you stay late? Hey, can you give me a discount on this? Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be for you. It's okay if you say, well, you know what? I'm going to do this for somebody else because I'm kind, I'm patient, I want to pour into this person's cup. That's awesome. But at least have the awareness of why you're doing it. That's the point I'm trying to make with this one.
Hey guys, so I wanted to jump on here and give a little bit of my experience about group coaching. So mine's been, I guess, a little bit different because I can't just say about group coaching without bringing in the whole, because it's been a really immersive experience for me. So I was just listening to a podcast that was talking about the ripple effect, and it's just so amazing how that just one little decision can just make such a huge impact in your life. And listening to the podcast was that for me, just getting that sent to me and actually listening to it, and it just kept having the ripple effect. I've not only the podcast, I threw myself into book club, trying to make the monthly meetups, Facebook. It's the whole experience for me. And one reason that's kind of held me back before and just really throwing myself into it is that I kind of would get ostracized from the people that I was close to. And so I was kind of hesitant to just be like super into it because I don't want to be lonely. So this group has just really helped with that, because I not only can just get on Facebook every day and see what's been posted and kind of comment and be a part. I have group coaching that was just, I'm learning stuff, I'm applying the habits, and I have other people that's doing the same exact thing, that's struggling. One of the biggest things that I think I gained from group coaching is when I went through that month of being so sick, and just knowing how I would have dealt with that a year ago versus my mindset now, going through it, and I wasn't able to do all of the habits, but I was so determined that I would just try to do as much as I could. And I just couldn't wait until I felt good enough to get back to doing all of them. And that knowledge, like that experience, that understanding meant more to me than getting 100% in the habits. And it's just so much growth. I've just seen so much growth in myself, and I am so appreciative to have the group, to have, that immersive experience. And I really appreciate all that y'all do.
So am I doing this for myself or someone else? I'm going to give a different frame on the same question here. I think that fearing judgment, other than not having self-belief, I think fearing judgment holds people back more than anything else. And I forget where it was. I think we were in high school, and I was talking about this, and I was saying how when you start a podcast, the number one biggest bottleneck to your long-term success is fearing other people's judgment. Recording a podcast by yourself on Audacity is actually very easy. Posting it and then putting it on your Facebook with all your friends and family is actually ridiculously difficult. Especially when you swear in the very first episode in the opening. Welcome back to the mother effing hyper-conscious podcast. I'm just joking, Kev.
Big jeffing.
But, it was definitely not our best work. Not your best work. No, I'm just joking. That one's cringeworthy for me too, trust me. But here's the thing. This number 3, am I doing this for myself or someone else? Ask yourself this. Try this sometime. This will really blow your mind. What would I do today if I really didn't care what anyone else thought? It will literally make you upset with yourself how much of your actions and inactions are predicated on the judgment of others. I would consider myself having overcome the fear of judgment on the higher end, you can't have 1,000 episodes that are out public for the whole world to see, that are some of them pretty terrible, without overcoming judgment. But I still am controlled by judgment, like quite a bit. And a lot of people say, I don't care what people think, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe people when they say that anymore. I really don't. As a matter of fact, the people saying that adamantly are usually the ones that care the most. So I'm just vulnerable and honest. Like, I do care, and I'm working on it. I used to let it stop me. That's the difference. So am I doing this for myself or someone else? A lot of us are doing a lot of what we do for someone else, and I can think of many different examples. One person behind the scenes that I coach said, honestly, I'm not even sure I got my master's degree for me. I think this is what my parents wanted for me. I'm not even sure if I wanted to do this. I know for me, I was told at a very young age, we were driving past my alma mater, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and we were in my mom's old black BMW back then. And she said, Alan, your uncle Merle is the track and field coach there. And the field is actually still named after Uncle Merle Norcross, so Norcross Field. And she's like, engineers go there. Alan, you're really good at math. Engineers make a lot of money. Engineers are good at math. You should go there. That would be great. You should go there. And I did. I ended up going there. But was that my dream, or was that a dream that was planted was that my mom's dream? Was I doing it for my mom's approval? And I think it's a little bit of both when I look back. But you're not alone in this. Am I doing this for myself or someone else? A lot of us are doing a lot of what we're doing for other people. And I'm not going to make that a bad thing, because I think that human beings are the most collaborative, cooperative, capable species in the world. I think that a team of people on a common mission, there's nothing more powerful. The NLU team. There's nothing more powerful than a team of people committed to the same mission. It's unbelievable. But you have to check in. Is this aligned with me? And I think you might be shocked at how much you're doing that really is not in alignment. And I've been checking in with that a lot ever since 26. Because when I was 26, I got in a tough car accident. And I questioned my life, because up to that point, I had so many college friends and high school friends and corporate friends. And I had so many acquaintances. And a lot of my life was spent trying to be something for others. And I think that I lost myself. And ever since 26, I promised myself that I would never lose myself again, and that I would go all in on my own self-improvement and on my own dreams. And my dream is to help other people achieve their dreams. And I've always been doing that, but I think I was running amok for quite some time and just trying to figure it out. I was drifting around. And I remember one kid, I'll be quick here, Kev. I remember one kid at college, he said, Alan, like, I know no one will give you this, but you're without a question the most popular person on this campus. And I remember at the time I didn't understand that, and I really appreciated it. But at the same time, what that required of me, like being friends with everybody, and it really did spread me too thin. And I don't consider that accomplishment anymore. I really don't. I think that greatness seeks solitude, and I think that mediocrity seeks social gatherings. And I really do believe that. And so to bring this down to earth here, am I doing this for myself or someone else? It goes with the second one and the first one. Why am I doing this? What do I really value? Am I doing this for myself or someone else? You see the theme here? You have a calling, and these questions are going to help you live in your calling.
And there's a fine line too, right? Because if somebody values something and you value that person, you might ask yourself the same question. Am I doing this for myself or someone else? And you might say, honestly, I'm doing this for somebody else because it's important to them and I want to be there to support them. Alan and I, so we had this conversation the night before Next Level Hope Foundation. So we had an event on Father's Day, and usually Alan and I go fishing on Father's Day. And Alan said, hey, are we still going to go fishing? And I was like, honestly, man, I don't think we're going to be up for it. I mean, this is going to be a really long day. We're going to be tired. The last thing we're going to want to do probably after being sweaty from running around is go sit in a boat somewhere fishing. Part of that for me, and I said, I'm down to do it if you want to do it, but if not, it's not going to break my heart. Part of that for me was saying, if it's up to me, if I'm doing this for myself, I'm probably not in. But if I'm doing it for you, Alan, I'm down to do it if you want to do it. And we ended up not doing it. I'm glad, because I came home and I laid down. Tara knows, if I'm beat, I come home, I take my shoes off, and I just lay down on the floor in the living room. That's what happened. And I was there for a minute because Kev's getting a little bit old. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I want to clarify real quick before we move to the next one. I don't think doing things for others is a bad thing. I think doing things for others that are outside of alignment with your core values and your calling and what's best for you, I think the win-win is a wonderful thing. And I think with Kevin, that scenario, it wasn't a win-win because we were going to be cooked and, the podcast would suffer, the community would suffer, the team would suffer, we'd lose momentum in so many departments. So even though it would be fun, and obviously I want to catch more fish than you again, but, it's no big deal.
You had home field advantage. I'll take you to one of my old fishing holes. It'll be over.
I only fished there for like 20 years, man. What are you talking about?
Right? You know the spots. I have been going on a lot of podcasts lately. Shout out to Laura on the team who is crushing it and getting me on a ton of shows. I have been on probably, I don't know, what do we just say? We'll just say 40 in the past 2 months. I've been on so many other shows. And oftentimes when I go on these shows, I get a lot of love from the hosts. And one of the things I try to do is I try to say, I'm not as confident as you think I am. Because a lot of people will say, how did you get over your anxiety? How did you fear chase for so long? How did you get to be the person you are today? Like, how did you get over your fear? And I always say, I'm still afraid. I'm always afraid when I do this. It's just par for the course for me. But when I come on this show, when I go on any of these shows, when I'm going on a show that's quote unquote successful or with somebody who's a very successful business owner, I ask myself, okay, what is the story I'm telling myself? So the story I'm telling myself is this person's way more successful. They're going to be a better speaker than I am. They're not going to be impressed with what I have to say. I'm not going to tell my story well. The listeners aren't going to like me, whatever it is. And I try to ask myself that question before anything, really. Any time where I start to have self-doubt, what is the story I'm telling myself? Is the story I'm telling myself that I'm not a great speaker? Okay, and then go to point one. Why? Well, because I'm tired and I'm not able to connect my thoughts as well as I usually can. Okay, cool. That's something else. But I think that for many of us, we run our lives based on the story that we're telling ourselves. And oftentimes, probably more often than not, that story is incorrect. So very similar to the why question, this makes you dig a little bit deeper. Okay, Kev, you've done 1,000, well, probably 1,200 or close to 1,300 podcasts at this point. What is the story you're telling yourself before you go on another show? Are you telling yourself that you're the man, that this is going to be amazing, that you're going to blow everybody away? Or are you telling yourself that, this is probably going to suck, you're probably going to mumble through your words, you're going to forget your story, you're not going to say words correctly? There's a good chance that whatever story I'm telling myself before I do it, it's more likely that that's going to happen. So I've tried to switch over to, I just play a very energetic song, I get in the zone, and then I say, okay, cool, I'm the best. I'm going to do this. I'm the best. And then usually it goes pretty well. Do I have my misses? Absolutely. But the story I tell myself is usually more of an empowering one now that I've realized that oftentimes it's not.
So this one, what's the story I'm telling myself? I wanted it to be, what's the story I'm telling myself about myself? But I didn't want to limit Kevin.
I appreciate that.
This is a self-awareness question. And when we decided on these questions, there were many others that came up, and these are the ones we landed on because these are the ones we believe will land most. But what's the story I'm telling myself about myself? I was telling myself a story for the longest time. So I had a bunch of roommates in college, and they all love spicy food. And I remember I would get frustrated because I absolutely hate spicy food, but for whatever reason, I would still tell myself a story that maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time will be different. And it's so interesting. So Kev, you've obviously had Frank's Red Hot, right?
Of course, I put that on everything, as they say. That's their slogan. I put that S on everything. That's their slogan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. So there's the buffalo one, and then there's the regular one, classic or whatever. Mm-hmm. So Emilia really likes the buffalo one. So I do the grocery shopping, not every time, but Sundays I go grocery shopping and I grab one of those bad boys for Emilia. She loves hot sauce. And every now and then we'll cook a meal and I'll be like, you know what? Maybe this time I'll actually enjoy just a little bit. I won't put that much, just a little bit. I regret it every single time. Every single time. And I talked to Emilia about this. I said, I know this is stupid, but don't let me put hot sauce on anything anymore. Call me out, because it's a story I've told myself that maybe that'll change one day. I have a fairly growth mindset, and I think my taste buds can evolve. They never do. So just Alan, and I got, so Kev, you and I talked about China P last week, and it's a Chinese food restaurant near here. And Kevin's like, "Did you get the orange chicken? Because it's like famous orange chicken in this area." And I got orange chicken this time, super spicy. Literally had to waste some of it, put some of it down the garbage disposal. An absolute travesty.
That is.
I don't
That's
like
a real
wasting
shame.
food. I never waste food, so that's how spicy it was. But anyways, and also Emilia didn't like it very much. Otherwise, I would have given it to her. So here's the story I've told myself about myself. I've told myself a story that one day I'm going to like spicy food. And how many times do I have to ruin my meals before I wake up and smell the roses and realize that it's just not going to happen? Now, that's a small thing and a tiny example, but we all have stories we've told ourselves about ourselves. You know, we all say, I don't need a coat, even though it's cold. I won't need a coat, no big deal. And then you always end up cold and regretting that you didn't have your coat, right? So there's some big ones and there's some little ones, but just be very candid with yourself. This question, what is the story I'm telling myself? I've told myself a story that this person's right for me when they weren't. I've told myself a story that I like going to summer barbecues when in reality I want to stay home and work. I remember when Emilia asked me, she said, what are you going to do differently in your 33rd year? This was when I was 32 and it was my birthday coming up, my birthday week. And I said, I'm not going outside of alignment ever again. Fast forward, I got invited to a wedding with one of my past friends, and this is someone who I was very close, like a brother to me growing up, and this person was the first person who I had those first jobs, busboy, cart kid, all that at the golf course. And if you know my story, you know that I struggle not to drink at weddings, and I'm coming up on 3 years sober. And there was going to be drinks at this wedding. I mean, this was going to be a big drinking wedding. And I knew that. And I was like, well, let's go. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be different this time. And then on top of that, too, I thought my stepdad might be there as well. And she's like, is this a story you've told yourself? Like, have you told yourself that this is a good idea and that this is aligned? Is this really aligned? And so I had to send a really challenging audio to my friend and just essentially say, this is not aligned for me. I'm sorry. I hope you have a wonderful wedding, but it's not aligned. And thankfully, she called me out for the story I was telling myself that this was aligned when it really wasn't. Because when I checked in with me, I was like, no, she's right. Because she literally said, well, I thought that you were going to not go outside of alignment anymore at 33. Like, are you sure? Right? And I gave her permission in advance to do this, by the way. This is not her being unkind or not allowing me to make my own choices. I've asked her to hold me accountable because this is something I struggle with. You know, I struggle with wanting to be social and wanting to go to all these things and wanting to have all these friends. And I think that the life Kevin and I have designed in terms of trying to have this show be as successful as it can be and as valuable as it can be and trying to be the most valuable men we can be, it's very difficult to also be there for everybody and be there for things like that. So that was a story I was telling myself about myself, just like the hot sauce. And I was also telling myself a story that I'm ready to go to a wedding again without drinking, and I'm not sure. And I think that humility is really important.
Hot sauce. Anytime you can work that into a story. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Okay, we have a lightning round here because we have a couple of minutes before the Q&A. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So Next Level You is the brand. That's what we talk about every single day. That is our goal, to help you get to the next level of your life. So we had to put something on here about goals and dreams. But I think that a lot of people, if you say to them, hey, what do you want to accomplish in life? That can get muddy because it's hard to say, like, I don't know, where do I want to be 40 years from today? Or, hey, what's your number one dream? It's like, well, I'd like to live on a mansion on the beach and just do nothing all day. It's like, all right, that's probably not going to happen. Like, you got to do something. So this is the question that you got something over there?
I thought of in Forgetting Sarah Marshall when he's on the surfboard. He's like, you got to do more than that.
Yeah, you got to do more than that. Can't do nothing. Do less. You got to do more than that. You can't do nothing. All right, last question. And I like this framing. I like this phrase because I think it really makes you think, and it takes things from like a very, very high level to maybe something that's a little bit more digestible. What would have to happen for this to be the best year possible? So imagine yourself 365 days from today. You're looking back on the previous year. What happened that made this year so wonderful? Did you get in the best shape of your life? Did you find a partner that you are deeply in love with? Did you make more money? Did you get more clients? Did you leave your job? Did you get a new job? Did you move? Whatever it may be. I think a lot of us, and I know Alan and I are guilty of this in the past, like, what do you want out of life? Tell me everything. What's your biggest goal? What's your dream? Where do you want to be in 50 years? I think that's very hard for most people, since most people struggle to think of, a couple of years away from today. So let's just break it down to a year and say, hey, imagine that you just lived this year and it was awesome. What had to happen for it to feel as amazing as it did? So that is the fifth and final question. Alan, you have 1 minute and 8 seconds.
1 minute and 8 seconds.
Actually, 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I actually don't think I'll need that much.
Wow.
I know that sounds...
Yeah, I doubt that.
I know.
This is what happens.
I know.
So
I got this.
This is what happens. In the lightning round, we say, Alan, you have 1 minute. And he says, all right, let me, and then he thinks for 30 seconds. He's like, all right, what can I say in this 1 minute? And I was like, well,
you're burning time, man. No, all I'm going to say about this last one, what would have to happen for this to be the best year possible? Choose 3. Choose 1 under health, choose 1 under wealth, and choose 1 under love. And then ask yourself that every single year. I think that incremental improvement is ultimately what matters most. And I think clarity is critical, and I don't think you're going to have clarity if you don't ask questions like this. So if the 50-year thing works, do it. If it doesn't, start here and build.
Wow. Look at that. 1 minute to spare. Also, real quick, shout out to all the new NLU family members. We've had more listens lately. It's just been wild how many listens we've had, so I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Very blessed, because when we started this, nobody was listening, and now there's a lot of people listening all over the world and on every continent, so we're very, very grateful for each and every one of you. And I know oftentimes it might seem like Alan and I are just screaming into the microphone, but we know you're there. Every episode we do is for you, because of you, and with the goal of adding as much value as possible to your life. So I just want to give a little shout out to all the new NLU family members.
And seriously, please reach out. We love to meet our listeners. We don't just say that. I told the story on a podcast we recorded earlier about a client of mine who's become a dear friend, and I was on the Stairmaster just hating my life, and he pulled his phone up and walked over to me, and it was my podcast, our podcast. Sorry, Kev. Our podcast. Yeah, right. And it was him pointing to it, and now he's a client and we're crushing it. So I love that. I don't like being interrupted in the gym. I loved that. So, we love to meet our listeners, and we're not just saying that. I cannot wait to meet you. So please reach out.
I had somebody stop me at the store one time and like, hey, are you Kevin Palmieri from the podcast? And I was like, what? What? It was awesome. If one of your goals, if you were to ask yourself, what would have to happen for this to be the best year possible, or the best year ever, if one of your goals there would be to be the most consistent, on-point, aligned version of yourself, to meet other awesome people, and to get a lot of stuff done, we have our 7th round of group coaching starting July 12th. We have done 6 groups. This is going to be the best one ever, because we have failed all the other times in small ways, and we're making sure that those become lessons and improvements in the future. We have a workbook. It's just a lot of amazing stuff. So if you're interested, please join us. Alan and myself, bi-weekly calls, behind the scenes, totally private. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be a business owner. If you're a dream chaser, you are more than welcome.
Also, you are invited to our monthly meetup on July 7th. How to become the healthiest version of yourself. Health, wealth, and love. We're going to go all in on fitness on this one, and we're going to help you become a healthier version of yourself. Kevin and I are both on the 10-pound challenge. Kevin's a little bit ahead of me right now. Mm-hmm. But by August 1st, we will be at a healthier version of ourselves than we normally are. No, but seriously, there's a lot that goes into this. And as someone who studied fitness for a very, very long time and who used to live very unhealthy, and now I feel like my health is definitely a priority, and I understand the fundamentals of it, and so does Kev. He's been working out since he was 16 years old. So it's going to be really powerful, and we don't talk enough about health and fitness, so we're pumped.